Hi everyone, welcome back to another Graflex video. For today's video we have something really special. Right here is my latest vintage Graflex. What you can see here in front of you, all four of these are actually vintage Graflexes from my collection. So I've already reviewed these three in previous videos. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and the most recent one I got, which was The Force Awakens. And just a few days ago, I was just browsing on eBay in the UK, and I happened to come across this Folmer in pretty good condition, and it was going for a really good price, so I just couldn't resist. So four in total. I won't be keeping all four. I'll just be taking some parts of this one and using it on another one. So I'll still have three in the end, but it's just kind of nice to look at it and do a quick comparison. So I'm just going to put these off to the side for now. So here it is. So it's really nice. It does have a little bit of rust, but I definitely have ones that are in worse condition than that. So most of the rust, there's a little bit of a patch over there on the clamp. There's a little bit of rust on the beer tab. There's tiny spots here and there, but nothing, over here. There's quite a big line here on the glass eye, unfortunately. But the rest of it actually makes it look really beautiful. Like, I quite like these small spots here and there. The slide switch looks really, really good compared to... this is what I wanted to change. This is my A New Hope Graflex. Again, this is a Folmer, but the slide switch here is in bad condition. And the clamp has got quite heavy rusting. And this is primarily the reason I jumped on this. So yeah, so this is a Folmer. And for the first time ever, I've got a Folmer with a patent number. So this lower end here is accurate for the Dagobah Graflex and for the Ranch Saber, which I will not be building those two. I have no immediate plans for either of those two at the present moment, so this will be sold, but it's really, really cool. So I now have all three variants of the stamping. This is the Folmer Graflex with the patent number. This is, you can't see it because of the clip, but it's the Folmer non-patent, so there's no number on this. The one on ESB is also a Folmer non-patent. And over here, the TFA is an ink. Obviously, it's covered, but it is a Graflex ink. So it's quite cool to finally see this in person. What else? So yeah, Folmer patent, lower. This looks to me like an early Folmer clamp because it's got these small rounded lever rivet. I believe the later Folmer clamps have a kind of a slightly more or slightly larger and flat. I've never seen one in person. And obviously the ink, it has a nice big machined one. So all three of my clamps actually look exactly like this, with a small rounded rusty lever pin. So I believe this to be an early Folmer clamp. The top I believe to be an early Folmer upper. And I think it's an early because of the inside the bunny ear. You can see that brass pin over there, which I also have on this one and on this one, but not in that one, and which this is also a Folmer, but that is different. It just has like a punched rivet kind of thing. It doesn't have that rounded brass pin. So I think this is an early Folmer. Yeah, smooth pins as usual. Red button. Let's just go ahead and take that off. Obviously, it's a thick knurling as usual. I've never actually got a vintage with a thin strip of knurling. That is obviously the earliest and rarest, and also the most expensive. It's quite a nice red button. Really beautiful bit of natural aging. On bottom here we can see there are, I think, 6 notches, I count in total, and that is a later Folmer. The Graflex ink, I'll show you by comparison. All the Graflex ink buttons have 1 notch. A single notch somewhere, yep, right over here. And then the earliest models, the earliest Folmer buttons have 3. Okay, here's an early Folmer, has 3 notches. So this is an early Folmer top, as far as I can tell, with a late Folmer red button. As for the glass eye, well, that is clearly a Folmer. As always, I always demonstrate with my hands. The Folmer has sharp sides that kind of go into a 45-degree incline like that. Typical of a Folmer eye. An ink eye kind of curves and is a softer, more parallel sides. Like, oh, I don't have an ink here. Okay, anyways. So this is a Folmer eye, but I did notice something interesting when comparing it to the other Folmer eye. Let me just take them off, it'd be easier. So this is the new one, and it's definitely a Folmer, and this is my other one from A New Hope. So both of them are Folmers, as you can see from that sharp 45-degree incline. But I did notice when looking at them closely, it's from the top, that rim is different. On here, the rim right here is a little bit wider or a bit thicker. Over here, it's a thinner strip. I'm not sure if you're able to see what I'm talking about, but look over here on the top. There's almost like a couple of millimeters before it slants down. Over here, it's almost just a line. So it just looks slightly different. Bear in mind that a lot of these were sort of machined by hand, and none of them are going to look identical, but the general rule is these thinner ones are earlier. So I believe this to be an early Folmer glass eye, and this to be a late Folmer glass eye. So once again, late Folmer glass eye, late Folmer red button. There's a little bulb that fell out, because obviously this can be used as a flash with the right batteries. Let's put that back together. Oh, there we go. Let's pop the red button back on. The switch functions. It has a nice it's a little stiff, but you can get it to go. So yeah, if I had the batteries in, I'd be able to activate that bulb. Yep, smooth pins, brass bulb contact, spring loaded, really nice set of bunny ears. Overall, really beautiful condition. So that's it. Nice and quick one today, just to show this off. Beautiful Folmer here, and another Folmer here. This would be my A New Hope This I was very happy with. It was my first Folmer ever. In fact, my first vintage Graflex ever. I was over the moon when I got it, but I'm just not really happy with the amount of rust. I'm always happy with a little bit of rust, but this was a little bit too much for my taste. Just on the clamp and also the way that the slide switch is. So those two components will be going on this. I'll keep the lower end and obviously everything else. Red button and eye from this are staying. This is ESB, that's another Folmer. Pretty much the same. Most of these are early Folmers with a mix of early and late buttons, early clamps and non-patent. And finally, I talked about this in a very recent video. This is my Folmer top, ink clamp and ink bottom for TFA with a late Folmer eye that looks like that one that I just got, and an ink button. So that's it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know there was nothing much to learn from it, but it's interesting to look at these subtle little differences between different generations of red buttons and glass eyes and things like that. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.